They used to joke about Earth in the early cycles. The galactic convergence had sent transmissions, envoys, and diplomats toward the Sol system for over 300 years. Some said the humans were too primitive. Others said they'd wiped themselves out in nuclear stupidity. Most didn't care. Earth had never shown up to a single galactic summit, never answered a single beacon. To the ruling species of the Galactic Council, humanity was just another footnote on the long list of self-extinct races. Until the sky changed. Commander Thale of the Vornari Dominion watched the edge of the Terran expansion zone from the command deck of the Nimari Ascendant, an escort-class warcruiser stationed near a neutral gate cluster. It was a dull assignment. 6 standard years of patrolling dead space between commerce routes, avoiding pirates and rogue AI remnants. But today, something shimmered. "Sir," said his comms officer, eyes wide, antennae twitching. "New gravitational signatures. Dozens. No hundreds. They're all human-coded." Thale turned, his second heart stalling for half a beat. "Repeat that." The officer leaned forward, triple-checking the readings. "Earth vessel designations, sir. They've got Sol-stamped engine imprints, and they're not hiding." In fact, they were broadcasting. Not with words. Not with some desperate plea to join the galactic community. Not with old Earth music or hopeful banners of peace. They broadcast silence and motion. The ships were vast, black, and scarred like they'd been forged in forgotten wars. They parked themselves across 1,000 known system borders, each one floating quietly, facing outward, waiting. Every government received the same data drop within seconds. It wasn't a threat, it was a reminder. The file contained images of past atrocities, footage of galactic races enslaving humans during early scouting missions, secret vivisections, research facilities that had captured Earth's early astronauts and labeled them intellectually limited life forms. Experiments, mockeries, and executions, all documented, all time-stamped. None of the governments had admitted it. They didn't think Earth knew. They thought Earth was too small, too silent. But humanity had been listening, watching, building. One transmission finally followed. Just 4 words, in Terran Standard, translated into every galactic tongue with deadly precision. "We missed the meetings." The Galactic Council called an emergency summit. Not all the species made it in time. Within 24 hours, 2 fringe outposts were reduced to floating ash. No formal declaration of war, no comm traffic, just incineration from orbital kinetic rods that left craters so deep they breached planetary cores. By the time the Council issued a formal demand for negotiations, Earth had already locked every known wormhole gate it didn't control. Trade routes froze, supply chains cracked, panic began to infect the outer colonies. But Earth wasn't rushing. It was calm, methodical, like a predator walking through a forest of prey that forgot what fangs looked like. On Mars, beneath the old war domes, General Nathan Hale watched the galactic chaos unfold from a reinforced command bunker. His face was lined, hardened by 30 years of silent preparation. His voice was gravel when he finally spoke. "We gave them every chance," he said, turning to the wall of screens. "Now they'll learn the cost of ignoring a species that never asked for a seat, because we came back to flip the table." No applause, no flags, no anthem, just cold resolve, and a fleet of 1,000 black warships that didn't blink. Earth had missed the meetings, but now it was everyone else's turn to listen. General Nathan Hale sat alone in the command chamber of Bastion 9, a black fortress sunk deep beneath the red sands of Mars. On the surface, the dust storms were screaming, but underground, the silence was heavy, the kind that only comes after decades of waiting. He wasn't a man built for diplomacy. His fingers had pulled triggers long before they signed treaties. His eyes had watched whole squads die under orbital fire, waiting for backup that never came. Backup that never existed. Earth hadn't just been ignored, it had been betrayed. It started centuries ago, during the age of exploration. When Earth's fragile spacecraft stumbled into the galactic map, the species didn't come with fire. They came with curiosity, open channels, and outstretched hands. And they were welcomed, for a while. Hale remembered the old records, the hopeful broadcasts, the first human ambassadors, nervous but proud. The images of them standing in towering alien halls, surrounded by races that smiled with needle teeth and glowing eyes. Then the experiments started. Discreet at first, a human colony ship that disappeared, blamed on a solar flare. A science vessel that sent a scrambled signal, something about a first contact gone wrong. Then came the confessions. One of the defecting alien scientists had smuggled a data chip through Titan's smog-choked atmosphere. Inside were records, dozens of them, of human prisoners dissected alive, of brain scans labeled unstable but promising, of laughing aliens posing beside cages. And worse, governments of the Galactic Council had known, not only known, but sanctioned the research under the table. Because humans were too emotional, too volatile, too young for the table. So Earth left, quietly, cut its transmissions, shut down its diplomatic corps, faked weakness, let the galaxy forget. And while they mocked, Earth prepared. Nathan Hale's command terminal blinked. Incoming signal from the outer asteroid perimeter. "Show me," he growled. A holographic window opened, revealing a weathered, scar-faced man aboard one of the outer Sentry dreadnoughts. "Commander Bishop, reporting in, sir," the man said, his voice cold and clipped. "Outer edge confirmed. 16 Council probe drones destroyed. No further movement yet." Hale narrowed his eyes. "Did they get a signal out?" "Negative. Our jammers got there first. No trail, no trace. As far as they know, the drones vanished." Good. The war hadn't officially started yet, but war wasn't about declarations. It was about momentum, control, terror. "They're testing us," Bishop added, "seeing how far we'll go before we blink." Hale let the silence linger. Then he said, "We're not blinking." Bishop gave a curt nod. "Orders, sir?" "Burn every probe. Leave one intact. Let it crawl back with our message." "What message?" Hale leaned forward, eyes hard. "That Earth doesn't negotiate with cowards who dissect our children." Bishop's jaw tightened. "Yes, sir." The screen cut out. Back on Earth, deep inside sub-level 13 beneath the Appalachian Ridge, a man named Merrick paced through rows of cryo-coffins. Each one had a name, a rank, a reason. He wasn't military, not exactly. He was from Black Echo, a program that technically didn't exist, genetically enhanced, trained from age 7, forgotten by most governments when Earth fell off the diplomatic grid. Merrick and men like him had spent their lives in the cold, waiting for the day someone gave the word. That word had come 2 days ago. "Awaken the Legion." Now, the halls echoed with the hiss of thawing tanks. Each man inside had a memory of what had been done to Earth. Some had seen it firsthand. Brothers kidnapped during off-world training missions, returned as meat. Others had simply been told, shaped by pain into weapons with one purpose: make the galaxy regret forgetting Earth. "Status?" Merrick called out. A tech in a gray coat looked up from her console. 37 units active, full neural sync within parameters. Rage index is higher than anticipated. "Good," Merrick muttered. "We want them angry. Just don't let them burn hot too fast." "These men were asleep for years," she said. "You sure they're ready?" Merrick stared at the rows of slowly stirring soldiers. "They've been ready since the day the galaxy spat on their flag." The probe returned 3 days later. It limped into a council-guarded neutral zone, its hull melted, half its sensors missing. But it broadcasted a loop. Not a voice, not an ultimatum, just footage. Footage of the Terran Legion awakening. Of orbital war platforms lighting up around moons once thought uninhabited. Of massive dreadnoughts hidden beneath asteroid fields rising like black serpents. And then one final shot. A massive cannon platform orbiting near the dead world of Callisto, its barrel glowing, a timestamp beneath it reading 72 hours. The message was clear. Earth had given the galaxy 3 centuries of silence. Now it would give them 3 days of fear. In the capital world of Serene Prime, the Galactic Council convened in chaos. Ambassadors shouted over one another. Holograms flickered with red warnings. Armies were mobilized, fleets deployed. But behind closed doors, they argued. Not over how to stop Earth, but whether they could. "We underestimated them," hissed Minister Vorkin of the Drixel Combine. "We thought they were finished. Instead, they built war machines in the shadows." "The humans were always unstable," spat a Slan diplomat. "They breed conflict. Their species is infected with revenge." "Should we sue for peace?" whispered another, a green-skinned Yandere. "Offer reparations? We did violate them." "No," Vorkan said coldly. "That would show weakness. We must strike first." "And if they strike harder?" The silence that followed said everything. Back on Mars, Hale was reviewing old files, the kind not meant to be seen again. One showed a 12-year-old girl in a holding tank, floating in green fluid, eyes wide, mouth open in a silent scream. A human, captured during a planetary outreach program, tortured for science, cataloged, dismissed. Another showed a group of humans being paraded through a council world's streets, naked, beaten, with signs hanging from their necks. Unfit species. The galaxy had moved on from those days, covered them up, pretended to forget. But Earth didn't forget. And men like Hale? They didn't forgive. He opened a private channel. Merrick appeared on screen. "We go in 48, Hale said. "Status?" Merrick's voice was low. "Legion is hot. Psyche scans show containment at 94%. They want blood." "Tell them they'll get it." "Targets?" Hale's eyes narrowed. "The labs on Dravak 9, the ones that started the organ trade. I want them erased, not conquered, not occupied. Gone." Merrick didn't smile, but his voice shifted slightly. "Consider it done." That night, Bishop stood on the deck of the Oblivion Pike, watching stars crawl past. His hand rested on the railing, fingers tracing the old etched names carved into it. The crew of an early Terran freighter, slaughtered during first contact trials. No one ever found their bodies, just fragments, pieces. One name read, Elias Bishop, his brother. The galaxy had made a mistake not just ignoring Earth, but hurting it. The hurt had seeded men like Bishop, Merrick, and Hale. Men who didn't want peace anymore. Men who only understood justice paid in fire. He turned to his second-in-command. "Bring us within range of the Draxil ring. Quiet approach. Target the comm satellites." "Soft strike?" "Number hard burn. Then make it loud. Let them hear Earth's reply." The officer nodded and moved to execute. As Bishop turned back to the stars, a quiet voice echoed in his mind. His brother's, from a letter sent before his death. They think they're gods. Make them bleed like men. The first strike came without warning. Merrick's legion descended on Dravak 9 like black death. Cloaked dropships punched through the atmosphere. Shock troopers hit the ground running, no declarations, no speeches. It was over in under an hour. The labs burned. The scientists? Executed. The council soldiers? Given one chance to lay down arms. They didn't. So Earth showed them how Terrans fight. Later, when the council reviewed the footage, they were stunned. These weren't angry mobs. These were trained soldiers, coordinated, calculated, efficient. And they didn't take prisoners. Only one message was found burned into the side of the facility's ruins. This was the cost of silence. Earth didn't want conquest. It didn't care about territory or tribute. It wanted something deeper. Reverence, fear, respect forged in pain. And now, for the first time in galactic history, the other races understood something chilling. Humans hadn't stayed silent because they were weak. They stayed silent because they were waiting for the moment they'd be ready. Now, the moment had come. And Earth had parked 1,000 warnings above every council world. Not ships of peace, but tombstones. The council called it Operation Redemption, a combined fleet of 72 warships from 11 species, commanded by Admiral Korith of the Ardan Imperium, a three-eyed tactician with a bloodline soaked in victory. His species had broken planetary rebellions with precision strikes for centuries. He wasn't just a general, he was a legend. And now he would remind Earth of its place. The plan was simple. Strike at Earth's outer colonies, force a retreat, then open negotiations from a position of strength. Korith stood tall on the bridge of the Devotion's wound, his voice smooth and cold as he addressed the council leaders via hologram. The humans have grown arrogant in isolation, but they're fractured. They've lost touch with the galaxy's progress. We will remind them they are still a minor species. Council members nodded with forced confidence. No one wanted to admit their fear. Earth had shaken them, but old pride still lingered. We must hit them fast and hard, Korith continued. Target the outer supply rings, destroy their communication relays, leave their war machines deaf and blind. And if they retaliate? Asked Vorkan. Korith allowed a thin smile. They won't get the chance. The council fleet moved with swift, mechanical precision. Dozens of ships cloaked and shimmered through wormholes, appearing in the dark space around the asteroid colonies of the Terran Mining Accord, Earth's most vulnerable supply line. But what they expected were resource drones and civilian transports. What they found was death. The first fleet passed through the Perigos Drift, a debris field left from a mining collapse decades ago. It was the perfect ambush site, and Earth knew it. As the fleet maneuvered through the dense wreckage, hundreds of dormant heat signatures suddenly flickered to life. They weren't rocks, they were mines, each one loaded with gravitational warheads and shrapnel dense enough to split capital ships in half. By the time Korith's scanners picked up the heat surge, the first blast had already torn through the side of the Athanari Bolt, an Arkan battlecruiser. It split like paper, its engine core detonating, throwing flaming debris into 2 escort ships nearby. The comms lit up with screams, static, then silence. Then came the voice. Human. Calm. Male. Broadcasted directly into the bridge of every council ship. You came to our edge thinking we'd run. You thought wrong. Welcome to Earth's version of diplomacy. Korith's jaw tightened. Form defensive perimeter, he snapped. Bring up shields, fire at will. But there was nothing to fire at. The mines were gone, and the humans had vanished. Not a single warship in sight, only the ghosts of destruction, floating silent in space. Korath gritted his teeth. They want to bleed us slow. Fine. Move to Target 2. Begin orbital descent. Let's take one of their damn colonies and put their flag in the dirt. Target 2 was Vesta 9, a frozen mining outpost built into a hollowed-out moon. It held no real strategic value, but it was symbolic. The first colony Earth had claimed after going dark. A flag of independence planted in the cold. Korath ordered a ground strike team of 900 troops, supported by mechanized walkers and orbital bombardment capability. The mission was simple: land, overwhelm, and broadcast the footage back to Earth. But something was wrong the moment they entered the atmosphere. Vesta 9 was quiet. Too quiet. Thermal scans showed no life, no weapons, no power signatures. It was empty. Could be a trap, said Commander Harnix, Korath's second-in-command. I don't care, Korath replied. We're taking that moon. We need a win. They landed at the colony's center. Towers of black steel and frozen scaffolding stretched into the violet sky. The ground team fanned out, moving through frost-bitten corridors, weapons raised. Still no contact. Then they found the bodies. Dozens of them frozen in seated positions. Scientists, miners, engineers, all human. But something about their expressions. They weren't terrified. They looked calm, peaceful. Then the message came through. An audio file triggered the moment the central power core was accessed. A man's voice. Hales. We knew you'd come here. Vesta was never for defense. It was a vault, a grave marker. These were the first to die in silence, while you watched and did nothing. They froze here, cut off, begging for help that never came. Now they wait for you too. Before anyone could react, the doors slammed shut. All of them, magnetic locks engaged. And from the ceiling, dozens of canisters dropped. At first they hissed like coolant, then came the fire. White phosphorus, an old Earth weapon, banned by every galactic treaty. It ate through armor, skin, bone. Korath watched, horrified, as the entire strike team was incinerated in minutes. He tried to break the signal, scramble the feed. But Earth wanted them to see. The last thing the Council fleet saw before the feed cut was a Terran flag, scorched and waving in the artificial wind, standing tall in the ashes of their dead. News spread fast. Vesta 9 was gone. Not taken, not destroyed, weaponized. A death trap that killed 900 elite soldiers and 3 armored divisions without a single shot fired by a human hand. And still, no one could find the Terran fleet. It was like Earth had become a shadow, striking, then disappearing, but always watching. Back on Serene Prime, panic began to bloom. What if we can't win this? Said Minister Garn. They're not just fighting us, they're outthinking us. We have numbers, Vorkan snarled. We have technology. They have purpose, Garn whispered, and men who are willing to die just to make a point. Inside the mountain fortress on Mars, Hale sat across from Merrick, both men lit only by the cold glow of tactical screens. Vesta was a message, Merrick said. They'll retaliate harder now. Good, Hale muttered. They'll make mistakes. You sure this is the way? Hale looked up slowly. They burned our people, cut them open like animals, and then laughed while we begged for entry into their civilized club. He stood, walking to the viewport. This isn't about peace anymore, Merrick. It's about memory, making sure they never forget. Merrick said nothing, just nodded, because he understood. Korith was unraveling. He barked orders, slammed his fists, executed his own officers for hesitating. But fear was a virus, and it had entered the bloodstream of the Council fleet. Ships started pulling back, refusing orders. And then came the death blow. A single Terran fighter, tiny, outdated, appeared near the Council's main supply ship, the Vistara one. It was a distraction. Everyone saw it. No one saw the 5 stealth torpedoes it deployed in the debris field an hour earlier. When they detonated, they didn't just destroy the supply ship. They cracked it in half and sent fire into 3 nearby vessels. Over 2,000 personnel gone in seconds. That's when the fleet broke. Korith screamed for discipline, threatened to court-martial half his captains. But by then, the war had turned. It wasn't about pride or power anymore. It was about survival. Earth watched the retreat from orbit. No parades, no celebrations. Just confirmation that the galaxy had felt the first real taste of what humanity had become. Hale turned off the screen. "We let them come," he said softly. "Now we take it to them." Merrick looked over. "What's the next target?" Hale's face was carved in steel. "The prison moons. The ones where they sent our people. The ones they said didn't exist." Merrick nodded slowly. "Time for the galaxy to see what real prisoners look like when they come home." The Council called them rehabilitation facilities. Earth called them tombs. There were 12 in total. Moons converted into off-record prison worlds across unregulated systems, hidden under false names like Detention, Satellite Theta, or Experimental Isolation Zone 9. They weren't listed on maps. They weren't guarded by fleets. They didn't need to be. After all, no one was ever supposed to come back from them. Inside those places, thousands of humans had vanished. Early explorers, captured diplomats, resistors, even children taken during behavioral studies. Officially, these moons didn't exist. Unofficially, they were where the galaxy buried its guilt. Until now. Commander Merrick stood inside the assault hangar of the TSV Vindicator, a black dreadnought older than most colonies. Its armor bore no emblems, no nation, no plea for understanding. It was a vessel of vengeance. He turned to the 2 squads before him, 24 men, faces cold, silent. Veterans of Earth's darkest programs, ghost soldiers from abandoned black sites. These were the type of men built for one thing: erasure. "Target is Lunar Station Ashra," Merrick said, pacing before them. "Unmarked moon in the Kairos system. No communications, no shields, no defense grid, because they think no one would dare come." He paused, eyes burning. "Inside you'll find guards from 8 different species. Most are ex-military trash, cast-offs from Council security forces. They've spent decades torturing our people for sport, filming it, studying it, and feeding it back to their little science guilds like it was a fucking thesis." He held up a small holochip. A shaky video played. A young human girl, no older than 10, shackled to a wall, screaming, pleading, alien voices laughing off-screen. "Her name was Lena Caro," Merrick said. "Disappeared on a civilian diplomatic shuttle 70 years ago. This is the last footage we have of her. Until now." He let the chip burn in his palm. "No survivors, no speeches, no mercy. The only thing I want left standing on that moon is ash." The room was silent. Then a single soldier spoke, his voice low, gravel-throated. "Do we confirm IDs?" Merrick met his gaze. "Only if you want to know their names before you burn them." The drop was silent. No warning beacons, no challenges. The automated scanners didn't even register the Terran pods breaching the upper atmosphere. Ashra was a gray ball of rock, orbiting a dying gas giant. Its surface was scarred, littered with antenna towers and collapsed tunnels. Beneath the crust were layers of cells, labs, furnaces, and pits. The whole place designed for one thing: breaking the forgotten. The strike team landed on the north ridge, piercing through a ventilation shaft long abandoned. It wasn't the first time Merrick had infiltrated a hellhole like this, but this one felt heavier, darker. As they descended into the tunnels, the smell hit them first: rot, chemical burn, and something worse: a human stench, old and buried deep. Then they heard it. Not screams, not alarms, just a low, soft hum, the mechanical lullaby of automated cruelty, repeating endlessly. A sign on the wall, written in trade standard and scratched over English, read, "Comply and the pain is brief." They hit the guards fast. The first wave was caught in the central mess, gorging on synthetic meat and laughing over distorted hollow reels. The reels showed footage of forced fights, humans pitted against each other in crude arenas. One guard raised a toast just as the first Terran charge blew through the bulkhead. The squad didn't waste ammo on warning shots. They cut the room down in seconds, energy blades slicing through armor, suppressed railguns firing silent vengeance. The guards tried to run, tried to plead. Some even dropped their weapons and surrendered. It didn't matter. Earth hadn't come for peace. It had come for penance. Further in, they reached the lower cells. They opened each one with deliberate calm. Inside, the surviving prisoners didn't cheer, didn't cry. Most just stared, hollow-eyed, starved, scarred. Some whispered. A few laughed. The broken kind of laugh that came from decades of being treated like an animal. Merrick found a man chained to a pipe in cell 9A. He couldn't have been more than 40, but his face was weathered like a man of 80. The man looked up, blinking against the light. "You're not them," he croaked. "No," Merrick said. "We're worse." He gave the man a knife. "Go find your warden." It took an hour to sweep the entire complex. By the end, over 180 alien guards and researchers lay dead. Some were executed. Others were burned alive in the same furnace pits they once used to dispose of human remains. But Merrick wasn't done. He accessed the command core and uploaded a virus from Hale's private directive. The system blinked red. All remaining documentation, footage, and classified data erased, purged, except for one file, a live stream, fed to every open channel in Council territory. The feed showed the last surviving warden, a bloated Tharian, chained upside down, blood dripping from his eye stalks, being walked through the ruined corridors by 2 human prisoners, naked, scarred, limping, but smiling. When they reached the courtyard, the camera zoomed in. One prisoner leaned close to the warden's ear. "You made me eat my brother," he whispered. Then he pulled the torch trigger. The broadcast cut out. In Council space, chaos followed. The footage had gone viral in hours. Billions watched it. Some turned away in horror. Others watched in silence. A few nodded. Because deep down, even those who once mocked Earth knew something had been coming. The humans had warned them, had begged, had shouted. Now they simply acted. And still, the Council refused to yield, not because they had hope of victory, but because pride wouldn't let them kneel. Back on Mars, General Hale received the full report. He read it slowly, wordlessly, then closed the file. Merrick stood across from him, gauntlets still stained with ash. "We gave them a gift," Merrick said. "1 moon down, 11 to go." "No," Hale said quietly. "We don't cleanse the others." Merrick frowned. "Why the hell not?" "Because the message is sent," Hale said. "Let those places rot in fear. Let them wonder every day if we're coming." He leaned in. "Make them live with what they've done, like we had to." The next wave wouldn't be surgical. It would be biblical. The Terran fleet moved in silence, surrounding the outer rim of Council space. One by one, Earth began cutting systems off: trade routes, wormhole gates, satellite relays. It wasn't war anymore. It was isolation. Earth had learned it from them. Now it returned the favor. On Serene Prime, panic turned to hysteria. Markets collapsed. Riots broke out in lower districts. Alien citizens demanded their leaders make peace, but the Council held firm, because to kneel meant admitting Earth had been right all along, and that kind of shame doesn't die easy. At night, Nathan Hale stood atop the Bastion Tower and looked to the stars. Once, those stars represented hope, unity, discovery. Now they were broken mirrors, each one reflecting a truth the galaxy tried to bury. He closed his eyes and whispered, "You should have let us stay forgotten." Behind him, the launch bay roared as another wave of ships ascended into orbit. But this time, they weren't returning home. They were heading to the heart of Council territory, to bring justice with fire. The skies above Serene Prime had never known war. It was the cultural heart of the galaxy, a shining world of marble towers, floating gardens, and crystal rivers that stretched across whole continents, artisans, philosophers, diplomats, the great melting pot of 1,000 species. But none of that mattered now, because Earth's warships had arrived. Like black daggers in a velvet sky, they eclipsed the stars in perfect silence. No broadcasts, no warnings, just presence, heavy and suffocating. Inside the Grand Council dome, Minister Vorkan stood at the central console, his skin flushed with panic. "They're positioning along our exo-ring," he hissed. "They're not sending demands, not even opening comms." "They've moved beyond diplomacy," said Garn. "This is occupation." "Then why aren't they firing?" The question hung unanswered. Because Earth didn't have to fire. The waiting was the weapon. On every screen across Serene Prime, one image now played on loop: the charred remains of the Ashra Warden, staring lifelessly into the feed. Under it, a message. This is not war. This is memory. On board the TSV Apex, General Nathan Hale watched the capital from orbit. Through magnified optics, he could see civilians scrambling across evacuation ports. Merchant ships trying to breach the no-fly perimeter, all silently intercepted by orbital AI sentries. Not destroyed, just turned away. Let the people watch their leaders beg for air. Let them feel forgotten, like Earth had. Merrick entered behind him, helmet under one arm, armor scratched and pitted. "They'll never surrender," he said. "You know that." "I don't need them to surrender," Hale replied. "I need them to break." Merrick frowned. "We hitting the cities?" "No," Hale said. "Not yet. We start with the spires, the universities, their culture centers. Hit the things they brag about. Make them watch their pride burn." Merrick nodded slowly. "You're turning their heaven into a grave." Hale's jaw clenched. "Just like they did to us." Down on Serene Prime, emergency council sessions erupted in chaos. "They'll glass the cities!" screamed the Yandere diplomat. "My family, my hatchlings are in the North Quadrant!" "They haven't fired yet," growled Korith, the war hero now reduced to trembling silence. "There's still a chance, if we give them something." "Like what?" Garn asked. "They don't want gold, or territory. They want revenge." Vorkan stepped forward, for once, calm. "There's one thing we haven't used." The room went still. "No," said Garn. "You can't mean—" "It's the only option left," Vorkan said. "You think they'll stop, after Ashra, after Dravak? You saw what they did to our fleets, to our people. The humans don't want peace. They want judgment." "So we give them a monster," Korith muttered. Vorkan tapped into a restricted file. A single word glowed red on the table display. Project Null Light. 60 years ago, during Earth's diplomatic collapse, The Council had proposed radical contingency. If humanity ever became a galactic threat, they would be handled from within. That plan was Project Nulllight, a human-engineered counterweapon, built by alien hands, fueled by Terran DNA. Nulllight was human in flesh only. Its mind had been rewritten, reshaped into a programmable war entity. It had been frozen beneath a forgotten moon, too dangerous to use, too unstable to control. But now they thawed it. Hale knew something was wrong before the first warning klaxon hit. The orbital sensors above Serene Prime blinked red, showing an energy signature spiking from beneath the planet's crust. Not a weapon. Not a fleet. A life form. "What the hell is that?" Merrick muttered, reading the feed. "Biometric match? Human?" "No," Hale growled. "That's not one of ours." The video stream opened. And there it was, standing alone in the dead ruins of a forgotten temple district, rising from an underground vault. A man. Or something that once was. He looked Terran, male, mid-30s, shaved head, pale, unnaturally so. His eyes glowed with artificial light. Veins pulsated with some kind of liquid metal. His movements were smooth, too smooth. But it wasn't his face that chilled the fleet. It was his voice, broadcasted across every human ship. "Nathan Hale, you were my teacher. Now I am your reckoning." Hale froze. He recognized the voice. Asher Grant, a prototype from the early Echo Rebirth program, before it was disbanded for ethics violations, before Earth shut it down. He had been one of theirs, a gifted strategist, a soldier with no fear, no hesitation. But during the final phase of testing, Asher had vanished. The file had been scrubbed. The assumption was dead or stolen. Now Hale knew the truth. They hadn't killed him. They had turned him. On the surface, Nulllight moved with terrifying precision. He didn't attack civilians. He didn't destroy randomly. Instead, he walked to the Serenian AI core, the city's main neural hub, and plugged in. In under 3 minutes, he'd infected the entire planetary defense grid. Orbital cannons turned, not on Earth's ships, but on the city itself. Thousands of civilians screamed as the ground cannons lit up and vaporized a transport bridge. A district went dark. Fire swept through the skyline. "Why is he doing this?" Merrick shouted on the bridge. Hale watched in horror. "He's showing me," he said, "showing me what I taught him." Asher Grant wasn't just a weapon. He was a mirror of everything Earth had built in the shadows. All the rage, the training, the cold resolve. But with none of the soul, none of the guilt. He'd become the very thing Earth feared, its own reflection controlled by others. The Council watched from their bunker, silent. "He's not following instructions," Vorkin whispered. "He's burning the city," said Korith, trembling. "We told him to fight Earth, not kill us." "You gave a predator a leash," Garn hissed, "and now he's off it." Inside the orbiting TSV Apex, Hale made his decision. "Prep strike team," he ordered. "We go down. We end this ourselves." Merrick didn't hesitate. "You want him alive?" "No," Hale said coldly. "I want him human again, just long enough to kill him face to face." The drop pods screamed through Serene's burning skies, landing near the AI core tower, which now stood like a twisted beacon of fire and code. Nulllight stood at its base, calmly watching the chaos. As Hale stepped out of the pod, Nulllight turned. "I remember your voice," he said. "You taught me that revenge was survival." "You were supposed to be better than this," Hale said, raising his weapon. "You were supposed to fix what we couldn't." "I did," Nulllight said softly. "I fixed the illusion." He raised his hand, and the world exploded. The fight was brutal, blindingly fast. Null light was faster than any Terran soldier, stronger, but he wasn't perfect. He remembered too much, and Hale knew where to hit. Blow after blow landed. Plasma rounds cut through artificial flesh. But still he stood, bleeding light and fury. "I am what you made me," Null light whispered, choking as he collapsed to one knee. "No," Hale said, walking forward. "You're what they made of what we left behind." Then he placed the charge. 1 second. 2. Boom. The AI core tower collapsed in a rain of steel and fire. Null light's last scream echoed through the systems he'd infected. And Serene Prime went dark. The orbital fleet received the message 15 minutes later. Target neutralized. Command remains. But Hale didn't celebrate. He sat alone in the ruins, looking up at the sky, because he had seen the cost. Null light was a weapon born of Earth's rage, but it had taken alien hands to unleash it, and now the galaxy finally understood. Humanity wasn't a danger because of its strength. It was a danger because it remembered everything, and it never stopped learning how to hurt back harder. The fires on Serene Prime burned for 7 days. No reinforcements came. No relief fleets arrived. The Council's core world had been turned into a scarred relic, its towers reduced to molten spires. The greatest city in the galaxy was silent. Nathan Hale stood among the ashes, his boots crunching over glass and bone. Rain fell from a broken sky, thick with ash and chemicals. His armor was torn at the shoulder, cracked at the knee. But he stood tall. Behind him, the strike team moved slowly through the ruins, searching for survivors, not to help them, but to identify who might still have value as a message. Merrick approached, visor smeared with soot. His eyes, red and rimmed with fatigue, held no emotion. "No Council signatures left alive within the core zone," he said. "A few diplomats are cowering in the West Chambers. Engineers, medical staff, one historian." Hale didn't look at him, just asked, "The historian?" "Species?" "Drexarian. Lived on Earth once. Wrote a book about us. Called humans the emotional mistake." Hale's lips tightened. "Put a camera on him. Have him read from that book in front of a pile of his dead." Merrick nodded. "On it." He started to turn away. "Merrick," Hale said. The commander stopped. "When this ends," Hale murmured, "will you know how to stop killing?" Merrick's jaw flexed, but he didn't answer. He simply turned and walked away, leaving Hale standing alone in the ruins of a world that once mocked Earth from a throne of stars. Back on Mars, the Terran War Command received Hale's signal and broadcast a global message to Earth and every system within reach. Serene Prime has fallen. No Council species has offered surrender. Earth continues its offensive. We are not negotiating. Across Terran colonies, cheers erupted. Fireworks on the floating platforms of Titan, red banners waved over the shipyards of Ganymede. Children in underground shelters watched the message with wide eyes, never knowing the world before war. But not everyone celebrated. In hidden bunkers beneath Luna's surface, older veterans, those who remembered the first betrayals, simply sat in silence, staring at screens filled with smoke and ruin. Because they'd waited a lifetime for this, and it wasn't enough. 3 days later, Earth launched Operation Widow's Eclipse, a fleet-wide command to erase every remaining symbol of Council supremacy. No more warnings, no more strategic targets. This time, the directive was simple: cultural cleansing. Every statue, every monument, every temple or archive that had once framed humanity as inferior would burn. "We're not just erasing their power," Hale told his officers. "We're erasing their mythology." In the Orlethi system, the Terran Legion landed on Vareth 6, a planet once famous for its towering temple to post-organic evolution, where humans were labeled as biological fossils in exhibitions. Now those temples were rubble. The Legion paraded captured Council loyalists through the ruins, broadcasting their pleas across every channel. In each system, the result was the same. Shock, despair, submission. But still, no surrender. Hale knew why. The Council wasn't waiting for a miracle. They were waiting for Earth to collapse from within. Because in their arrogance, they believed humanity was too emotional to maintain war this long. They believed rage had an expiration date. But Hale had trained for silence. And Merrick? He didn't need peace. He just needed a name list and enough ammunition. Inside the wreckage of Serrane's Eastern Archive Tower, Hale found something unexpected. A room still intact. No scorch marks, no bodies. Just a metal vault with 6 layered doors. They forced it open. Inside was a chamber of preservation. A chamber built to survive planetary extinction. It was filled with Earth's stolen history. Paintings from pre-collapse Earth museums. Weapons from ancient wars. Letters from Terran philosophers. But worst of all, a long glass case holding the broken helmet of Commander Miles Corrin, Earth's first interstellar envoy. The Council had claimed his ship vanished in a meteor storm. Now Hale saw the truth. They'd killed him, displayed his remains like a trophy. A warning. Hale didn't speak for a long time. Then, softly, "Burn this building last." Merrick's voice came over comms. "Copy. Got a comm relay from one of the outer sectors. Survivors requesting negotiation." Hale turned slowly. "Council?" "No," Merrick replied. "Civilians, mixed species, colony world, independent. They say they stayed neutral." "Everyone stayed neutral," Hale muttered, "until Earth started winning." The next day, Hale met with the Council of Elithra's Hollow, a moon colony populated by refugees, outcasts, and non-aligned civilians. They brought no weapons, just pleas. One of them, an older alien with pale green skin and soft eyes, approached Hale and knelt. "We didn't touch your people," he said. "We took no prisoners. We've kept your books in our libraries. We taught your history to our children. We never believed the lies they told about you." Hale said nothing. Behind him, Merrick watched quietly, fingers resting on his sidearm. The old alien looked up. "Please, tell us what you want." Hale walked forward, crouched, and whispered, "I want you to remember that when we could have burned you, we didn't." The alien nodded, trembling. Then Hale stood and left. That night, Merrick confronted him. "You let them live." "Yes," Hale said simply. "Why?" "Because we have to leave something behind." Merrick's eyes narrowed. "We've spent years making sure the galaxy remembers our pain. And now," Hale said slowly, "we have to make sure they remember our choice." On Earth, a silence began to form. The people were watching, waiting. Not for another victory, but for a point. What was the goal now? There were no more fleets, no more threats, just broken cities and shattered empires. Hale returned to Bastion 9 on Mars, alone. No celebration. He walked the dark halls, past statues of the fallen, the names etched in black stone, the faces of the children taken, the soldiers lost, the ships that never returned. He sat alone in the command room, looked up at the screen. A single line blinked. All systems silent, no enemies left to kill, no voices left to silence, and yet the weight didn't lift, because revenge doesn't bring peace, it just buries the noise under blood. Merrick came in an hour later. "Command's asking what's next," he said. "Colonies want direction, the outer systems are watching, Council's gone, trade routes are ours, we own half the sky." Hale didn't answer. Merrick sat beside him. For once, he wasn't in armor, just a plain shirt, dusted in ash. "We won," he said. "No," Hale murmured. "We survived louder than they expected." Merrick leaned back. "So what?" "We rebuild?" Hale looked him in the eye. "We rewrite." 6 months after the fall of Sorain Prime, the galaxy had changed. The Galactic Council was dissolved, its charter burned. Member species had scattered, disarmed, or pledged absolute compliance under Terran oversight. The great capital planets were silent, patrolled by Terran orbitals. Earth's black-helmed sentries watched every gate, monitored every wormhole, and ran every trade lane through checkpoints with cold, clinical efficiency. They called it order protocol. To some, it was justice. To others, occupation. But to Earth, it was proof. Proof that the galaxy had finally learned to speak in Terran terms. Not in peace, not in treaties, but in fear. And for men like General Nathan Hale, it should have been enough. But it wasn't. He spent more time in silence now. Not in the war rooms, not in the strategy domes. Just walking, through the black corridors of Bastion 9, through the graves of those lost, through the unmarked halls where Terran history was being rewritten by his own hand. The Monument Plaza had grown, names etched into carbon plates, stretching 20 meters high, soldiers, civilians, missing children. The war had given them a legacy, but Hale felt none of the triumph. Not anymore, because there was one name not carved into the stone: his own. Across the outer colonies, enforcement had become automated. Legion drones patrolled streets, enforcing memory discipline, a program Merrick himself helped design. It outlawed all council symbology. No former member species could teach non-Terran history. No monuments could remain. No foreign flags. The penalty for defiance was exile at best, eradication at worst. The colonies complied. Of course they did, but not all of them quietly. On the fringe world of Oralis Drift, a communication blackout hit during the 3rd week of compliance scanning. What was meant to be a simple audit mission had ended in static. Hale received the report in his quarters. A short burst of distorted audio was the only message recovered. They remember everything. They're not sorry. They're preparing. Then nothing. 3 days later, Merrick stood before Hale in the war room, clad in full tactical armor, helmet under one arm. "We found the ship," he said. "Audit team's cruiser, shot down. Crew executed, no survivors. Species. Mixed," Merrick said. "Some ex-council, some Terran-born." Hale looked up slowly. "Terrans killed Terrans?" "Looks that way." "Motives?" "They don't need motives. They just needed time." Hale stood. "Prep a rapid strike team. We're going down there." Merrick frowned. "Sir, with respect, this is a molehill, not a mountain. Let the Black Division handle it." "No," Hale said. "This isn't about them. It's about us." Oralis Drift was an old mining colony, scarred and broken from the pre-war days. It had no real value now, except as a symbol. A Terran-led world that had once declared loyalty without coercion. The fact that it had now rebelled? That was more dangerous than an enemy fleet. Hale's team landed silently under the cover of the system's twin moons. No orbital bombardments, no warning shots, just boots in the dust and eyes in the dark. What they found wasn't a riot. It was an uprising. Barricades, black market railguns, disguised bunkers, homemade EMP devices built from repurposed mining gear. But it wasn't just the tech that shocked Hale. It was the faces. Terran faces. Men and women who bore the mark of Earth. Some even wore old unit tattoos. 2nd Exodus Corps, Colonial Marines, Recon Unit 45. Some of them had served under him. They captured one alive. Name: Donovan Trask, former Terran field agent, discharged after Sorain. No record of dissent. Now he sat in chains inside the mobile command center, bloodied but defiant. "You taught us to remember," Trask spat. "You told us we were the edge of the blade." Hale stared at him. "And you turned that blade on your own." "No," Trask said. "I turned it on the thing that replaced us." "You rebelled against Earth." "I rebelled against what Earth became." Hale left the chamber in silence. But something in his chest twisted. Not anger, not pride, recognition. Because Trask wasn't wrong, and Merrick knew it. "You should execute him," Merrick said. "Send a message." "No," Hale muttered. "If we kill every voice, we'll forget what they sound like." "They're traitors. They're mirrors." Hale ordered Oralis Drift quarantined, not destroyed. Merrick didn't argue out loud, but Hale saw it in his eyes. That distance, that shift. Something between them was breaking. The reports kept coming. A data leak on Hylian 4. Banned books found, smuggled stories of Earth's brutality. A student protest on Proxima Station. Terran children burning red flags in defiance. A suicide bombing on Delta Fringe. 2 human separatists chanting a quote from one of Hale's pre-war speeches before triggering the blast. "They taught us pain. We turned it into strength. But strength without soul is just another chain." Hale read the quote again and again. It was his voice, his words, now used as the manifesto of rebellion. One night Merrick entered his quarters without knocking. He dropped a data slate on the desk. "You need to see this." It was a kill list. Names, thousands of them. Civilians, suspected dissenters, rogue elements. Merrick's voice was hard. "We need to purge now, before this festers, before it spreads." Hale looked down at the list. So many of them were his own people. Children of the war, raised under Terran banners, trained in Terran schools, burned by Terran fire. And now, they were starting to feel again. "We can't kill our way into legacy," Hale said. "We didn't come this far to hold hands," Merrick snapped. "No," Hale murmured. "We came this far to be remembered. They already remember. They just don't fear us anymore." That was the line, the one that hung between them. Fear. Was that all they had left? Later that night, Hale activated an encrypted channel, one the High Command didn't know existed. He sent a single message to an old code buried beneath Earth's polar archives. "Initiate protocol ashes. Burn the black slate. Let the children speak." Then he powered down the terminal and walked into the night. Because Hale knew now, they'd won the war, but they were losing the soul. And soon, someone else would rise, not to fight Earth, but to fix it. Bastion 9 no longer felt like a stronghold. It felt like a tomb. General Nathan Hale walked the inner corridors slowly, as if each step might crack beneath him. The stone walls echoed with silence, the kind of quiet that comes not from peace, but from exhaustion. The screens showed no threats. The war rooms showed no enemies. The stars were his. And still, there was no victory in his bones. He stood in front of the monument wall, a long slab of obsidian etched with the names of the lost. Earth's war dead, from the first silence to serene prime. At the bottom, an empty space had been left, waiting for his name. Because men like Hale didn't retire. They didn't fade away. They paid the price. He watched the screen as news poured in from the outer colonies. The rebellion was no longer isolated. Now it was organized. Earth's own children, Terran-born, Terran-raised, were the ones leading the charge. They called themselves the Remembered. And their slogan? "We are not your vengeance. We are what's left of your humanity." That line struck deeper than any enemy fire ever had. Merrick stormed into the command room 3 hours later, the new casualty reports in hand. They bombed 3 more supply stations, 1 on Hollis Gate, 2 in the Paragon line, and now there's footage. Children, Nathan, Terran children, marching in the streets waving white flags dipped in ash, ash from our own monuments. Hale didn't look up. They're angry. They're ungrateful, Merrick snapped. Do you think any of this was easy? Do they know what it cost to make the galaxy kneel? What it took to give them a future where they weren't laughed at, enslaved, dismembered? They know, Hale said. They just don't want that kind of future anymore. Merrick paced like a caged animal. We should crush it, all of it. Give them one lesson they'll never forget. No, Hale said. We've done enough forgetting. Merrick stopped, eyes burning, jaw clenched. You're going soft. No, Hale murmured. I'm going human. Later that night, Hale returned to the encrypted room beneath Bastion 9, the Ashes Vault. Only 3 men in the galaxy had access to it, and 2 of them were dead. He sat in front of the old terminal, typed in the final sequence. Initiate Protocol Ashes. Confirm identity. He placed his hand on the biopad. It scanned, approved. Ashes Protocol engaged. Burn the black slate. He paused, then tapped the final key. And Earth's darkest archive, all surveillance logs, all secret prisons, all undeclared war crimes, were unlocked, but not destroyed. Released. Within hours, the data spread across every system in the Terran sphere. Screens on warships flickered with footage of old Terran operations, orbital purges, the prison moons, the child experiments on Vesta, the silent cleansing of council libraries. And Hale's face was in most of them. The hero, the symbol, the executioner. Panic struck the High Command. Terran elite scrambled to contain it. But it was too late. The world knew now. Humanity had won by becoming everything it once hated. And Hale had made sure they'd never forget it again. The next morning, Merrick stood in Hale's quarters, silent, fuming, holding a loaded sidearm. You gave them everything, he whispered. I gave them the truth. You betrayed everything we built, all the fear, all the respect. We were gods. No, Hale said, stepping closer. We were monsters in human skin. You were supposed to be the last wall, Merrick said, tears in his eyes. Not the first crack. I was never the wall, Hale whispered. I was the fuse. They stared at each other, one ready to pull the trigger, the other already letting go. But Merrick didn't shoot. He dropped the gun, stepped back. I hope you're right, he said. Then walked away. And Hale knew that was the last time he'd see him. That evening, Hale broadcast one final message, open channel, unencrypted, translated into every galactic tongue. His voice was tired, human, unarmored. I was there when they called us vermin, when they dissected us, when they spit on our flag. I was there when Earth rose, when we burned their empires to ash, when we made them fear the dark again. But I am also here now, and I see what we've become. We traded silence for dominance, pain for power, but we lost something greater in the fire, our soul. Let this be the last war of forgetting. Let us be remembered, not for what we destroyed, but for what we chose to leave standing. He ended the feed, shut off the lights, and walked away from the war. Years passed. The galaxy stabilized under a new Terran-led compact, not a rule of fear, but one of memory. The remembered became a neutral peacekeeping force. The prison moons were turned into memorials. Children were taught both sides of history. The Terran flag remained. But beside it, another was raised, a white one marked with a black hand, the symbol of remembrance. Nathan Hale was never seen again. Some say he died in the mountains of old Mars. Others say he walked into the stars and never came back. But on every colony, every ship, and every reclaimed world, there was a plaque, a single line carved into stone. Here stood the last man of war. He taught us to fight, then taught us when to stop. And that's where it ends. not in fire, not in silence, but in the echo of one man choosing to break the cycle. Earth missed every galaxy meeting, then parked 1,000 warnings above. But its greatest warning was what it almost became.